So you know those Instagram filters? We can actually use similar concepts that Instagram makes so popular and so easy to change your photos around in Adobe Photoshop. So here is a list of all the basic filters in Adobe Photoshop. Now, before applying a filter, you want to make sure that you have selected the thing you want it to apply to. This could be a layer or an actual selection of pixels on a layer. I honestly haven't used all of these because some were created for specific workflows that are very different from mine. Many of these filters were created to solve very specific problems. However, that shouldn't stop you from using them outside their intended use. And let's go to the filter gallery and we'll choose blur filter. And I want to make these people look like they're coming out of a time portal or something. So we're going to use blur gallery, spin blur. And notice I've already made a selection of everything that should be in the foreground. So it wouldn't be in the swirling vortex here. So they're coming out of the vortex. So yeah, I made a selection of just the background before I applied this filter. So you see it's only applying to the parts of the image that are selected. All right, so we need to make this bigger. So I'll just increase the size here. We just want to make sure they're all kind of look like they're coming out of it. And then we can adjust just one setting here, the blur angle. And so, if you go at 0, that's basically no blur, but you increase the degrees, that'll give you more of a blur up until, that's a little too much. Let's see, let's get something that looks, you can still make out a bit of the bridge there. I think that's about good. And then once you're done, you press OK. We can make it seem like they're coming out of a pixelated world into the real world. So I will just edit and undo the blur gallery. And then let's go to filter and pixelate. And let's see, we'll do the mosaic. And we can increase the cell size. Smart filters are used to apply filters non-destructively, and they should generally be your first choice. They allow you to tweak filter settings after the effect, and they can be stacked and reordered. So let's convert this background to a smart object. I'll just right-click and then choose Convert to Smart Object. And then we can still select things as normal. So I'll go up to Select Subject and we'll use the cloud. And this should select the happy family. Yeah, it does. And since I want to play with the background once again, I'm going to invert that selection. I'm pressing Shift-Command-I. And then that selects the background. And then we'll go to our filters and pixelate. Let's do a color halftone. And we can set some options here. Let's go with the defaults and see if those are okay. Okay, maybe that's a little too big. So instead of pressing undo, I can actually just double click on color halftone and I can change the settings here. So let's change that to 4 pixels and see how that changes it. Okay, so now you can definitely see the background, what it is, a little more clearly. And then if we added another effect to this, say we want to distort it a bit. So we'll go to Filter and Distort. And let's do a wave. And then when we actually decide, okay, we want to commit to it, we can press OK, and then it applies the filter. That's pretty groovy. A fun way to use filters and kind of has the feel of Instagram is by going through the filter gallery. And this works best with photographic style images. And they allow you to transform photos into painterly images, for instance. So here's a layer I've already converted to a smart object. And then let's use the filter gallery. So we'll go to Filter and Filter Gallery. And then this is where we have some categories that we can choose from, and we can set our viewing percentage for the preview. Plastic, that doesn't look wonderful. So let's try another one. Let's try palette knife. And then sometimes you can't really see what it's doing unless you zoom in. So let's zoom in a bit. Then we can see that it's definitely making it more painterly, but maybe we need to adjust the stroke size here, make that larger. And you'll notice we have a little progress bar at the bottom. So we can't really evaluate it until it's gone through its whole thing. Okay, and then we just press OK. And you'll notice once again, we have our smart filters here applied because this is a smart object. Photoshop also has futuristic neural filters. These are basically magic, and new ones are added regularly, not just when the main Photoshop version updates. Throughout the year, they're adding new neural filters. Some must be downloaded before use because obviously if it's a brand new filter and it's not part of the standard install of Photoshop, there'll just be a button in the neural filters group to download that so that you can add that functionality to your copy of Photoshop. I'll go to Filter and Neural Filters. And this is where we get to have a lot of fun with Smart Portrait. And for these, you need to turn them on. So we can just move the switch to the on position, and then that now makes these little controls over here on the side activate. So happiness, we can increase her happiness. Let's see what that does. Let's push it all the way up. Those are some big teeth. I'm not sure that's appropriate. So let's take the happiness down. Let's make her less happy. Okay, I think that looks better. Now this is a fairly young model. Let's see if we can increase her facial age to make her look like an older version of herself. And mostly it just changed her hair color a bit. Let's see about moving. She's looking straight into the camera. Maybe we want to change her eye direction. It's subtle, but she's no longer looking directly into the lens. And then once you're done with all of these settings and you're happy, you can just press OK. And that'll take you back into your image. And here's one more way to apply effects non-destructively, with layer styles. We talked about these back in the Painting with Style lecture, but here's a review of how to access and work with them. You can apply some effects more than once. Click the plus to the right of the category name to add another instance of that effect. At the top of this dialog box, there is also a styles group in the category list. This allows you to apply predefined presets of styles, as well as create, modify, organize, and save your very own. And to get to layer styles for the Searching Woman layer, I'll just double click in this blank area here. And that brings up the layer style dialog. And from here, we can go to styles and choose some of our presets here. In the basics group, there's none. So you can click that one and it'll get you back to your normal style options here. So if you see something that's missing and you want it, you can just quickly get back to it by choosing the default style from the basics. But let's apply an OS X system drop shadow. And if I click on that one, you'll notice that these categories go away and we just have a stroke and 3 drop shadows. And this kind of demonstrates how you don't need to just have one drop shadow. You can actually apply multiples of them. And each of them does a slightly different job. Notice that the size and the distance change here. And if we turn them on and off, you can see what part of the image they're affecting. So it actually starts with a stroke. Set to 4 pixels, we could increase that. And it's going on the inside. So we could change that to outside if we wanted. No, that looks kind of weird. Let's go back to inside. And then let's progressively turn on these drop shadows. And you see there was a reason why it's such a small number, because now the stroke is actually covering up some of the drop shadow. So let's take it back to 4. There we go. And maybe 4 is a little too much. We could just take it to 1. Just very subtle. All right. And then if we decide we don't want the stroke at all, just have it selected here and then click on the trash can icon. And that gets rid of that. And we just have our progressive drop shadows here. And then if you're happy with the changes you make to a style and you want to keep it for later use, you can go to Styles and then click on the little New Style button here. And then we'll call this Marty Shadow. And to create a new folder for the styles, you can go to Window, Styles, and then let's see our style that we just created here. Yeah, that's it. And then we can just click on this little icon and we'll call this Marty. And then we can drag our style into that.